In this video, we're going to go beyond the blocks. Beyond the blocks. What that means is that we're going to talk about 52 blocks as that supreme science, that supreme mathematics. I first heard Mr. 52 Blocks actually speak about this. First one I've heard actually really talk about this, Lord Ramel. I don't know him on a personal level, but I heard him talk about, 52 being that science of supreme mathematics. He talks about the Mantu. He talks about ancient Kemet. He talks about how 52 blocks came from the pyramids. And so when you have that understanding of the blocks beyond just the physical blocks, but you understand the mental aspect and the spiritual and that divine alignment, you understand how to apply the 52 blocks beyond the blocks themselves. And so what I'm talking about in this video is this concept of manifesting, right? A lot of us hear about this new age term manifesting, and manifesting really is a very Eurocentric idea, Eurocentric concept. Eurocentric meaning that it's centered around European concepts and ideas, okay, and ways of thinking, right? Similar to European Christianity, colonized Christianity that we have, okay? Similar perspective, because these ideas, these doctrines revolve around the individual, right? They're very individualistic, which the individualism within the culture is very much anti-African, right? It's very anti, who we are, right, as a communal people. And the reason this is important is because if you're out there trying to manifest something, you're basically telling the universe, or you're telling God, the divine Netzer, as we would say in the Kemetic system, that you're asking the divine, the universe, to bend to your will, right? Basically, that's what manifesting is. I want to manifest this, but it starts with the I. It starts with me, what I want to manifest, what I want to bring forth, whether it is, and it might be something of good purpose, right? You might want to manifest something that's very good for society or for the world. But regardless, it starts with what? It starts with you and what you want to do, what you want to manifest. And so when you understand 52 beyond the blocks, you understand that it's not so much about, hey, what do I want to manifest, but you understand how to get into divine alignment, right? So you have the Godhead, right? You've got Netzer, right? The Netzeru, the divine creator, source, whatever name you want to use. You have that alignment here with divinity. And a lot of us are on some type of level here. Some of us are trying to go beyond the divine, but we're never lining up, right, with the divine, that divine alignment. And so, but once you're in that divine alignment, and so that's what all you need to do is align with your source, align with your creator. And manifesting is not something that you do. Manifesting is something that happens as a result. That is the fruit of divine alignment. And so reason I'm speaking on this, guys, is because we just finished teaching 52 blocks at Norfolk State University, an official class, right? At Norfolk State University. And so the reason I say that, and the reason this is important, is because, myself and my brother Phil, we are bringing the African-American martial art of 52 blocks to Norfolk State University. This is huge and historic because we are bringing this historically African-American art to a historically black, college or university, an HBCU. That's what Norfolk State is. And so this is happening because of divine alignment. So I don't think you guys realize truly all that is happening down here where I am here locally, right? If you've watched my previous videos, you've seen me teaching kids, you've seen me doing a lot of different things in and around the community, but I don't think you truly understand how these things are manifesting and how these things are happening, because this is not me just deciding on a whim to go out and do these things. These are things that are happening really through me, right? They're happening through me. I'm just the vessel through which the divine is using. Really, I'm not doing anything at all, frankly. But a lot of this all stemmed from me aligning with Netzer, aligning with source, aligning with my creator, okay? And this journey for me started about 5 years ago, okay? A little more than 5 years ago or so. And I'm sharing this story with you guys because I'm hoping that this story helps you to manifest, right? To have manifest in your life the same kind of purpose, that divine purpose for which you were called to in this life. And so I want you to take that lesson, learn from me, right, in that regard and what my experience has been. I'm hoping that sharing my experience can help you experience the same thing in your life in terms of that manifestation. But for me, it all happened many, I say many years ago, but 5 years ago is a long time for me, but 5 years ago or so. And it happened because I was just in meditation, right? Just in meditation, just in prayer. And I like to pray close to the water, so I was at the beach. I'm down here in the Norfolk area, so I was close to the beach, and I was just on the beach and just praying, and just trying to figure out where to go and where to align to, and just, seeking answers, right? But the key to answers is asking the right questions. And so I have a very active listening approach in my meditation, in my prayer life. In other words, when I pray, I'm not just telling God, hey, God, can you do this for me, like he's a genie in a bottle, right? I'm really just listening. 99% of my prayer is just me just doing that. You know what I'm saying? And then just trying to attune myself, right? It's just like tuning an instrument. I'm trying to attune, right? That alignment. I'm trying to align with source. And so I happen to do that. And, at the time, money is tight. And so I'm like, man, it'd be great if I could find another part-time job or something else to do that can help, supplement my income. And I'm going on Indeed, checking out jobs and things like that. And a lot of you guys can relate to that if you understand financial struggles. And so I found a place that was just starting out, a boxing gym called Brick House Boxing, and they were just opening up. And it happened to be a black-owned business. So I called the brother up. I said, "Yo, hey, I didn't say like that, right? But I'm, my professional voice, right? But basically, I was like, "Yo, what's up, man? I'm Rob. I teach, martial arts in the area, and I do this, that, and the other. I can help you out. Let me, come by, or let me, I fill out the application and do all this stuff." And I say, "Hey, I see your website. Let me help you with the website." And I do all this. And so I do that, right? I help him with his website. I do all that for no charge. I'm just saying, hey, I just want you to be successful. And so long story short, obviously I was brought on as one of the coaches there, and I was told him, I say, I just want to teach, African martial arts. I want to be, because I want to teach the youth about themselves and who they are as, African descendant, individuals, young men, young women, soon to become adults. And so that's how we started Ijikadi African Martial Arts, teaching locally, teaching the youth. But that came out of my prayer, out of my meditation time. And just recently we've started now teaching, 52 blocks, right? And so Ijikadi was always a blend of 52 blocks and capoeira, right? And now we've been able to do both of those things independently. So now here locally we have a 52 blocks Norfolk VA, but we also have capoeira Beramar Chesapeake as well. So we have a capoeira branch and we've got the 52 branch. And let me tell you about divine alignment. And first of all, before I go any further, I have to give a shout out to Tahuti Ma'at. Okay, Tahuti Ma'at, if those of you guys are not familiar with Sister As Nefraka from Tahuti Ma'at, you guys definitely need to check them out, Navigating Eternity. But through this program, and I'll make sure I include a link in the description and stuff like that, but through Tahuti Ma'at and Navigating Eternity, like that was my training in divine alignment. Right? It's Kemetic Science. Okay. And, I have a Christian background. I still, have Christian values and faith, but I also understand my connection to my source and who I am as a person of African descent. So Tahuti Ma'at really gave me that background, gave me that training, gave me that knowledge, and helped me to align myself with Netzer, with Creator, with Source, with God, for these things to manifest in my life. And so through that connection with Tahuti Ma'at, my brother Phil comes through and he's like, "Yo, I want to learn Ijikadi." I'm like, man, this dude already knows everything, right? Because my man's doing 52, he's doing capoeira, and he's doing everything that we were doing in Ijikadi, already, okay? But we link up, we start training, and we get together. And, this was, 3 or 4 years ago, but since that time, he was able to kind of move down here full time, and we've started a school, together, because I already had my other school going on. But, what are the odds that I would meet somebody locally that does 52 blocks in capoeira? I'm just saying. I mean, do you know like just percentages of martial artists in your area who do both of those forms of martial art? He's the only guy I know. Okay, in my area, I've never met anybody who did the same thing that I was trying to do. Right, but that I didn't ask for that. right? I didn't just sit and meditate and just say, I want to manifest somebody that does the same things that I do so we can help each other and build together. I didn't ask for that, but that is what manifested. You know what I'm saying? That's what Netzer, that's what God's source said that I need, and that we need, right? Because we need each other. And so that happened. And then I went over to, a few years ago, I went over to Norfolk State University promoting Ijikadi African martial arts, because they had the Tidewater African Cultural Alliance. They had the Afro Beats Fest over there. And so I'm hanging out. I had my vendor booth set up and everything like that. Again, meanwhile, I'm not making a lot of money, right, doing this kind of stuff, but I'm just trying to be out in the community and get, figure out who's who, right? But I meet some amazing sisters, right? I meet the fitness goddess, right? Who, and that's what she called herself. Like, she introduced herself and say, hey, I'm Goddess. I'm like, okay, cool to meet you, So I met Goddess that day, and I met Sister Divinity that day, you know what I'm saying? So both two divine names, who I met that day, but both sisters were doing incredible work in the community. Sister Divinity was doing some amazing things with the local African Center school that I was able to partner with and teach a class there and volunteer, support, help out with their summer program. My other sister, the fitness goddess, she's got a ton of programs and things going on. And it was really through my connection with her that we were able to build on the programs that we're offering now. Okay, meaning that I just finished class at Norfolk State University, historically black college. First time that we're bringing this African American art, ancient African American art, to a historically black college or university, to Norfolk State University. And so I don't think people understand how monumental and historic that actually is. You know what I'm saying? If you understand the history of 52 blocks, where it came from, Virginia scuffling, right? And it came from our ancestors who were brought upon, who were brought here from Africa, right? Into the Americas, to Jamestown, to Williamsburg, to this colonial area that I live in now, right? And when our ancestors were enslaved and forced to fight each other and develop these systems of combat, right? That later traveled up and down the East Coast and various places and went into the prison system and the streets and came out of those environments, right? To forge what we have today in terms of 52 blocks. And to have it come back down to Virginia, and not just to Virginia, but to a historically black college university, that is historic in and of itself, okay? So I'm very passionate about that. Today, we also teach at an after school program, right? After school program, which also, Fitness Goddess hooked us up with that too, okay? It's just about showing up. Half the battle, guys, is just about showing up and being somewhere, okay? And then when you're in that alignment, things will manifest for you. You don't actually have to sit there and pray and meditate, visualize, and do all the stuff they tell you to do, okay? It's just gonna happen, all right? That is just what it is, okay? When you align your passion with your purpose, okay? Now we're teaching Norfolk State. We're doing after school programs. We're doing a program called Gamers and Guides, where we're helping the youth and we're teaching them, chess and life skills and coding and, STEM. And we're doing all these amazing things here locally. But that, guys, is what 52 blocks is all about. Yes, it's about defense. Yes, it's about blocks and being elusive and all these things. But beyond that, 52 blocks is inherently Pan-African. 52 blocks is inherently from ancient Kemet, okay? 52 blocks is inherently a black American form of martial arts. And what that means is that it's for the upliftment of the black American community. And that is what it is. Inherently, that's what it is for. So if our 52 is only physical, right, then I would surmise that we have not truly understood what 52 blocks actually is, okay? Because it is divine science. It is the supreme mathematics. It does come from ancient Kemet, and it is mental and spiritual. It is beyond just the physical blocks in and of themselves. And so but when you understand that as a person of African descent, and then you align that together with, the divine, now things are manifesting in your life that enable you to build your community. The only thing that I wish is that there were 10 more of me That's what I wish. I went to the school today, to the after school program today, and I'm teaching high school, middle school kids, and our class was supposed to be canceled because it's normally on Fridays, and they already have something going on Friday, and so they the school called me up and said, yo, again, this is my translation, right? They said, yo, Fridays we got this other thing going on, we got to cancel your class. And I'm like, well, can I come on Thursday? And they was like, you can, but there may not be a lot of kids that show up, but I'm like, you know what? This is my passion, this is my purpose, this is my calling, this is who I am, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to be there on Thursday. So I showed up today and there were a ton of kids there and they were so excited that I was there. They was like, man, I'm so glad you're here because this class is so important to me. It isn't just as important to me. And I told them that it's as important to me as it is to you that I be here for this class, because it's not just about punching and blocking and footwork and defense and all that stuff, which is amazing. But those things are the vehicle. Those things are just simply the means by which I reach the youth, by the means by which I reach my community. You know what I'm saying? So I just wish there was 10 more of me, because I think to myself, when I hear the kids say that, man, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you came. This is my favorite class. I love this class. I'm so grateful that you came through to teach. When I hear them say that and I see the change in their life, I see how they're building each other up, because we talk about building one another up as opposed to tearing each other down, which is inherent in the culture in a lot of cases, right? Especially in the school system. And so when I see them building each other up, when I see my high schoolers teaching the middle schoolers how to, keep their hands up, how to, cover their stance, and I'm teaching them how to be coaches also, so they can replace me and take my place. When I see that, I'm like, if we just had more of that, you know what I'm saying? I think this is earth-shattering for me, because for a long time, I've been told that the issues within our community are our fault, right? The issues within our community are because we don't want things. We don't want to do better. We don't want things to be different. We don't want to change. But then when you implement change within the community, when you implement a coach, a trainer, somebody who, like myself and others who are doing this kind of work, when you insert that into community and you see change happen, you're like, no, it's not that we don't want it. It's just that there's not enough of us doing it. That's just it, right? And so it blows my mind, because if at a city level, at a county level, at a state level, right, if we had these kind of programs, right, within the communities, if our tax dollars that we're paying, all of us are paying, went to building up with these in our communities with programs like this, like, that would solve so many problems. You know what I'm saying? But the reality is that that's not the case, right? The reality is that's not the case, and there are those who don't want us to build. That's just the reality of it. There are those who don't want us to have these kind of programs, that want us to stay where we are. And so it's incumbent upon us to volunteer, to show up. Right? And that's what I ask you guys today. If you want to manifest your destiny, just show up somewhere. Okay? You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to have it. I didn't have anything laid out or anything figured out. I just showed up with a willingness to help. I say, yo, I can help you build a website, coach. Even if you don't hire me to come on as a coach and train and teach African martial arts, I can help you build a website because, you're a Black-owned business and I want you to be successful. You know what I'm saying? Half the battle is just showing up. Whatever skill you have, or you kind of have, you're not sure if you have it, just show up. Just offer to help, okay? And you will be surprised what doors will open that you can just walk through. It's just about showing up. That's it. But that's the hardest part. It's the hardest thing for us to do, because we've been told that we're not good enough to even show up. We've been told a lot of times we get the door shut in our face. Those of us who do show up get the door shut in our face oftentimes. But then there are a lot of us who are just too scared to even show up. But I promise you, if you just show up for your purpose, if you just show up for your destiny, you may not even know you're showing up for that, right? You're just going to volunteer. There's 100 Black Men of America. There's Boys and Girls Clubs. There's all sorts of, community. You can just call your local church and say, hey, I just want to volunteer and help and do a youth program, or just show up somewhere to help the youth. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't take much. But in the process of doing that, you tell them who they are. You teach them about their history. You teach them about their culture, right? Where they come from. You teach them to value themselves. You teach them to value each other, to lift each other up, to build each other up. And you teach them now to go teach others, right? It's that concept, each one teach one, to teach one. That's what I say, right? Because it's not just enough for each one teach one. Not just for me to teach somebody else, but I need to teach them to go also teach. You know what I'm saying? Because we need to perpetuate and trainers, leaders, okay? And that's the biggest thing in our community. So we have these battles with identity, you know, who we are as a people. But the youth don't really know anything about that. You know what I'm saying? The ones coming up middle school, high school, they really know anything about that. And so each generation is just so micro focused on themselves, their own generation and their own battle struggles and their problems and what's going on, that we're forgetting about the young ones coming up. We need to train them, because you need to think 100 years from now, 200 years, 300, 400, 500 years from now. That's the kind of thinking that we need to have. Again, shout out to Tahuti Ma'at, Navigating Eternity. That's the concept, that's the line of thinking from a Kemetic standpoint that we need to have, and that, you know, that I've been trained to have, you know, again, through Tahuti Ma'at. And so part of it is through the training that you undergo, that you go through, right, to align with your purpose. But I would say to just start out just meditating or praying, right? Whatever you want to call it, or whatever that you do, but start out listening to the divine. Okay. Now, when you first start listening to God or listening to the divine, especially if you're used to like traditional prayer where you're doing most of the talking, it's going to take weeks or months. Okay. What that means is that it will take you a while to attune it's like an instrument that you haven't played in a long time, right? It takes you a while to tune it. And so eventually you will tune it to the point where you can discern where you are in your alignment with the divine. But it takes time. If you do it the first day, it's not going to really work too well. And then you might have different times of day that you're more aligned than others, different times of the month that you're more aligned than others. Those things are going to be natural, okay? But the biggest thing is just being consistent. And the more you train your instrument, right, the more you will be in alignment with that, right? It's just like playing in an orchestra or a band, right? You just got to keep doing it, practice, so that way the whole band plays, you know, together as one. And that's what you're trying to do with your source, with your creator, guys. So anyway, guys, hope this video just gave you some perspective, because I want to emulate the things that I'm doing here locally in Norfolk. I need you to do in your city, in your town, in your community, wherever you happen to be, okay? But it starts with that divine alignment and just showing up. Just call your local volunteer organization, you know, just show up to whatever you can show up to, whatever you can volunteer for. There's plenty of places that need your help, that need us, especially as men, to show up and help out and support. And you will be surprised what doors will open. Because 52 blocks is not really just about, like I said, it's not really just about the blocking. At the higher level, it's about liberation and freedom within our community. It's about building up and uplifting the African American, you know, African community globally, right? Worldwide, not just here in America. Okay, yeah, we're here, and Black Americans developed the art, and it, you know, is Kemetic in origin, in spirit, in the nature of the art, and the science of the art, right? But the physical techniques were developed, much of them were developed and fine-tuned, refined here in the States. But it is it's meant to be a global system to help people of African descent, okay? And so that at the higher level is what 52 is really all about. But it's just, you got to show up to be able to manifest that in your community and in your life. Anyway, guys, this is 52 Rob, Brother Rob. I hope that's been helpful for you guys. Please let me know in the comments, questions, comments, things you have, things you've seen that work, you know, anything like that, okay? Please let me know what you guys are seeing, what you guys are doing in your own community to manifest change.
Tell me the origin of 52 blocks, the origin and how the name came. I need to know that.
Well, the origin, it actually comes from ancient Kemet. It was called Mantu, the art of defense, mentally, physically, and spiritually.
The purpose of our organization is to start right here in Harlem, which has the largest concentration of people of African descent that exists anywhere on this earth. There are more Africans here in Harlem than exist in any city on the African continent, because that's what you and I are, Africans.